Chapter 12 Healing, Redemptive Love. We have been brought into the inner wine cellar and sealed with his seal, which is to suffer out of love. The ardor of this love greatly outweighs any suffering we may undergo. For suffering comes to an end, but love is forever. Tessa Balecki. Love heals. When we are wounded in the place where we know love, it is difficult to imagine that love really has the power to change everything. No matter what has happened in our past, when we open our hearts to love, we can live as if born again. Not forgetting the past, but seeing it in a new way, letting it live inside us in a new way. We go forward with the fresh insight that the past can no longer hurt us. Or if our past was one in which we were loved, we know that no matter the occasional presence of suffering in our lives, we will return always to remembered calm and bliss. Mindful remembering lets us put the broken bits and pieces of our hearts together again. This is the way healing begins. Contrary to what we may have been taught to think, unnecessary and unchosen suffering wounds us, but need not scar us for life. It does mark us. What we allow the mark of our suffering to become is in our own hands. In his collection of essays, The Fire Next Time, James Baldwin writes about suffering in the healing process, stating, "I do not mean to be sentimental about suffering, but people who cannot suffer can never grow up, can never discover who they are. Growing up is, at heart, the process of learning to take responsibility for whatever happens in your life. To choose growth is to embrace a love that heals. The healing power of mind and heart is always present because we have the capacity to renew our spirits endlessly, to restore the soul. I am always particularly grateful to meet people who do not feel their childhoods were marked by unnecessary pain and suffering, but lovelessness. Their presence reminds me that we do not need to undergo anything dreadful to feel deeply, that we never need suffering to be imposed upon us by acts of violence and abuse. At times, we will all be confronted with suffering, an unexpected illness, a loss. That pain will come whether we choose it or not, and not one of us can escape it. The presence of pain in our lives is not an indicator of dysfunction. Not all families are dysfunctional. And while it has been crucial for collective self-recovery that we have exposed and continue to expose dysfunction, it is equally important to revel in and celebrate its absence. Unless we can all imagine a world in which the family is not dysfunctional, but is instead a place where love abounds, we doom family life to be always and only a site of woundedness. In functional families, individuals face conflict, contradictions, times of unhappiness, and suffering, just like dysfunctional families do. The difference lies in how these issues are confronted and resolved, and how everyone copes in moments of crisis. Healthy families resolve conflict without coercion, shaming, or violence. When we collectively move our culture in the direction of love, we may see these loving families represented more in the mass media. They will become more visible in all walks of daily life. Hopefully, we will then listen to these stories with the same intensity that we have when we listen to narratives of violent pain and abuse. When this happens, the visible happiness of functional families will become part of our collective unconsciousness. In The Family, a revolutionary way of self-discovery, John Bradshaw offers this definition. A functional, healthy family is one in which all the members are fully functional and all the relationships between the members are fully functional. As human beings, all family members have available to them the use of all their human power. They use these powers to cooperate, individuate, and get their collective and individual needs met. A functional family is the healthy soil out of which individuals can become mature human beings. In the functional family, self-esteem is learned, and there is a balance between autonomy and dependency. Long before the terms functional and dysfunctional were used to identify types of families, those of us who were wounded in childhood knew it was because we were in pain, and that pain did not go away even when we left home. More than our pain, our self destructive, self betraying behavior trapped us in the traumas of childhood. We were unable to find solace or release. We could not choose healing because we were not sure we could ever mend, that the broken bits and pieces could ever be put together again. We comforted ourselves by acting out, but this comfort did not last. It was usually followed by depression and overwhelming grief. We longed to be rescued because we did not know how to save ourselves. More often than not, we became addicted to living dangerously. Clinging to this addiction made it impossible for us to be well in our souls. As with all other addiction, letting go and choosing wellness was our only way of rescue and recovery. In many ways, I have acted out throughout much of my life. When I began to walk on the path of love, I was awed by how quickly previous dysfunctions were changed. In the church of my girlhood, we were always told no one could give an individual salvation, that we had to choose it for ourselves. We had to want to be saved. In Toni Cade Bambara's novel, The Salt Eaters, wise older women who are healers are called in to assist the young woman who has attempted suicide, and they tell her, just so's you're sure, sweetheart, and ready to be healed. Because wholeness is no trifling matter. It's a lot of weight when you are well. Making the primal choice to be saved does not mean we do not need support and help with problems and difficulties. It is simply that the initial gesture of taking responsibility for our well being, wherein we confess to our brokenness, our woundedness, and open ourselves to salvation, must be made by the individual. This act of opening the heart enables us to receive the healing offered us by those who care. Although we all want to know love, we talk about the search for true love as though it is always and only a solitary quest. I'm disturbed by the weighty emphasis on self in so much New Age writing on this topic and in our culture as a whole. When I would talk about my yearning for a loving partner, people told me over and over that I do not need anyone else. They would say I did not need a companion and or a circle of loved ones to feel complete, that I should be complete inside myself. While it is definitely true that interconnectedness and a sense of fulfillment can be there whether or not we commune in love with others, it is equally meaningful to give voice to that longing for communion. Life without communion and love with others would be less fulfilling no matter the extent of one's self love. All over the world, people live in intimate daily contact with one another. They wash together, eat and sleep together, face challenges together, share joy and sorrow. The rugged individual who relies on no one else is a figure who can only exist in a culture of domination, where a privileged few use more of the world's resources than the many who must daily do without. Worship of individualism has in part led us to the unhealthy culture of narcissism that is all too pervasive in our society. Western travelers journey to the poorest countries and are astounded by the level of communion between people who, though not materially rich, have full hearts. It is no accident that so many of the spiritual leaders we gravitate to in our affluent society, which is driven by the ethos of rugged individualism, come from cultures that value interdependency and working for a collective good over independence and individual gain. While terms like codependency, which came out of programs for individual recovery, rightly show the ways in which excessive dependency can be unhealthy, especially when it's marked by the support of addictive behavior. We still need to talk about healthy interdependency. No organization dedicated to healing demonstrates the principle more than Alcoholics Anonymous. The millions of people who attend AA meetings seek a place of recovery and find that the affirming community that surrounds them creates an environment of healing. This community offers to individuals, some for the first time ever in their lives, a taste of that acceptance, care, knowledge, and responsibility that is love in action. Rarely, if ever, are any of us healed in isolation. Healing is an act of communion. Most of us find that space of healing communion with like minded souls. Other individuals recover themselves in their communion with Divine Spirit. Saint Teresa of Avila found, in her union with the divine, recognition, comfort, and solace. She wrote, "There is no need to go to heaven in order to speak with one's eternal Father or find delight in him, nor is there any need to shout. However softly we speak, he is near enough to hear us. All one need do is go into solitude and look at him within oneself, and not turn away from so good a guest, but with great humility speak to him. Prayer provides a place where talking cures. It is no doubt a sign of the spiritual crisis of our times that books are written to provide proof that prayer is soothing for the soul. All religious traditions acknowledge that there is comfort in reaching for the sacred through words, whether traditional liturgy, prayer, or chants. I pray daily as a gesture of spiritual vigilance. Prayer is an exercise that strengthens the soul's power. Reaching for the divine always reminds me of the limitations of human thought and will. Stretching, reaching toward that which is limitless and without boundaries, is an exercise that strengthens my faith and empowers my soul. Prayer allows each person a private place of confession. There is truth in the axiom, confession is good for the soul. It allows us to bear witness to our own trespasses, to those ways we miss the mark, a definition of the meaning of sinfulness. It is only as we recognize and confront the circumstances of our spiritual forgetfulness that we assume accountability. In their work, The Raft is Not the Shore, Daniel Berrigan and Thich Nhat Hanh stress the bridge of illusion must be destroyed before a real bridge can be constructed. In communion with Divine Spirit, we can claim the space of accountability and renew our commitment to that transformation of spirit that opens the heart and prepares us to love. After we have made the choice to be healed in love, faith that transformation will come gives us peace of mind and the heart that is necessary when the soul seeks revolution. It is difficult to wait. No doubt that is why biblical scriptures urge the seeker to learn how to wait, for waiting renews our strength. When we surrender to the wait, we allow changes to emerge within us without anticipation or struggle. When we do this, we are stepping out on faith. In Buddhist terms, this practice of surrender, letting go, makes it possible for us to enter a space of compassion where we can feel sympathy for ourselves and others. That compassion awakens us to the healing power of service. Love in action is always about service, what we do to enhance spiritual growth. A focus on individual reflection, contemplation, and therapeutic dialogue is vital to healing, but it is not the only way to recover ourselves. Serving others is as fruitful a path to the heart as any other therapeutic practice. To truly serve, we must always empty the ego so that space can exist for us to recognize the needs of others and be capable of fulfilling them. The greater our compassion, the more aware we are of ways to extend ourselves to others that make healing possible. To know compassion fully is to engage in a process of forgiveness and recognition that enables us to release all the baggage we carry that serves as a barrier to healing. Compassion opens the way for individuals to feel empathy for others without judgment. Judging others increases our alienation. When we judge, we are less likely to forgive. The absence of forgiveness keeps us mired in shame. Often, our spirits have been broken again and again through rituals of disregard in which we were shamed by others or shamed ourselves. Shame breaks and weakens us, keeping us away from the wholeness healing offers. When we practice forgiveness, we let go of shame. Embedded in our shame is always a sense of being unworthy. It separates. Compassion and forgiveness reconnect us. Forgiveness not only enables us to overcome estrangement, it intensifies our capacity for affirming one another. Without conscious forgiveness, there can be no genuine reconciliation. Making amends both to ourselves and to others is the gift compassion and forgiveness offers us. It is a process of emptying out wherein we let go of all the waste so that there is a clear path within where we can see the other as ourself. Kassajarian explains in Forgiveness. Even small acts of forgiveness always have significant ramifications at a personal level. Even small acts of forgiveness contribute to one's sense of trust in oneself and the potential of others. They contribute to a human spirit that is fundamentally hopeful and optimistic rather than pessimistic or defeated. They contribute to knowing oneself and others as potentially powerful people who can choose to lovingly create, versus seeing humans as basically selfish, destructive, and sinners. When we have clarity of mind and heart, we are able to know delight, to engage the sensual world around us with a pleasure that is immediate and profound. In his essay, Down at the Cross, James Baldwin declares, to be sensual is to respect and rejoice in the force of life itself, and to be present in all that one does, from the effort of loving to the breaking of bread. Poet Adrian Rich cautions against the loss of the sensual in What is Found There? Notebooks on Poetry and Politics. Sensual vitality is essential to the struggle for life. It is as simple and as threatened as that. Estrangement from the realm of the sense is a direct product of overindulgence, of acquiring too much. This is why living simply is a crucial part of healing. As we begin to simplify, to let the clutter go, whether it's the clutter of desire or the actual material clutter and incessant busyness that fills every space, we recover our capacity to be sensual. When the asleep body, numb and deadened to the world of senses, awakens, it is a resurrection that reveals to us that love is stronger than death. Love redeems. Despite all of the lovelessness that surrounds us, nothing has been able to block our longing for love, the intensity of our yearning. The understanding that love redeems appears to be a resilient aspect of the heart's knowledge. The healing power of redemptive love lures us and calls us toward the possibility of healing. We cannot account for the presence of the heart's knowledge. Like all great mysteries, we are all mysteriously called to love, no matter the conditions of our lives, the degree of our depravity or despair. The persistence of this call gives us reason to hope. Without hope, we cannot return to love, breaking our sense of isolation and opening up the window of opportunity. Hope provides us with a reason to go forward. It is a practice of positive thinking. Being positive, living in a permanent state of hopefulness, renews the spirit. Renewing our faith in love's promise, hope is our covenant. I began thinking and writing about love when I heard cynicism instead of hope in the voices of young and old. Cynicism is the greatest barrier to love. It is rooted in doubt and despair. Fear intensifies our doubt. It paralyzes. Faith and hope allow us to let fear go. Fear stands in the way of love. When we take to heart the biblical insistence that there is no fear in love, we understand the necessity of choosing courageous thought and action. This scripture encourages us to find comfort in knowing that perfect love casts out fear. This is our reminder that even if fear exists, it can be released by the experience of perfect love. The alchemy of perfect love is such that it offers to us all the love that is able to vanquish fear. That which is rendered separate or strange through fear is made whole through perfect love. It is this perfect love that is redemptive, that can, like the intense heat of alchemical fire, burn away impurities and leave the soul free. Significantly, we are told in biblical scripture that it is crucial that love casts out fear, because fear hath torment. These words speak directly to the presence of anguish in our lives when we are driven by fear. The practice of loving is the healing force that brings sustained peace. It is the practice of love that transforms. As one gives and receives love, fear is let go. As we live the understanding that there is no fear in love, our anguish diminishes and we garner the strength to enter more deeply into love's paradise. When we are able to accept that giving ourselves over to love completely restores the soul, we are made perfect in love. The transformative power of love is not fully embraced in our society because we often wrongly believe that torment and anguish are our natural condition. This assumption seems to be affirmed by the ongoing tragedy that prevails in modern society. In a world anguished by rampant destruction, fear prevails. When we love, we no longer allow our hearts to be held captive by fear. The desire to be powerful is rooted in the intensity of fear. Power gives us the illusion of having triumph over fear, over our need for love. To return to love, to know perfect love, we surrender the will to power. It is this revelation that makes the scriptures on perfect love so prophetic and revolutionary for our times. We cannot know love if we remain unable to surrender our attachment to power. If any feeling of vulnerability strikes terror in our hearts, lovelessness torments. As our cultural awareness of the ways we are seduced away from love, away from the knowledge that love heals, gains recognition, our anguish intensifies. But so does our yearning. The space of our lack is also the space of possibility. As we yearn, we make ourselves ready to receive the love that is coming to us as a gift, a promise, as earthly paradise.